We're here today on the shores of the Red Sea in the lower Hijaz Mountains to visit one of the newest circuits in the Formula One calendar. It's Jeddah, home to what we all hope is going to be a thrilling Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the scientist. They've had a fantastic campaign. It's been a wonderful year, and they come into this weekend's Grand Prix as a fully deserving champion.
I agree it's been a truly impressive season, but championship or no, I don't think they'll be gently cruising around to the finish line. In fact, with points no longer a concern, there's a lot less to risk, so we may even see a more aggressive approach.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. The scientist lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Bottas, Perez, Fernando Alonso, and Leclerc. Gasly, Ricciardo. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Vettel and Lance Stroll. Verstappen, Sainz, Lando Norris, they've taken a grid penalty, and Tsunoda. Mazepin, Raikkonen, George Russell, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Mick Schumacher. Latifi and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Okay, we've already won the championship, so relax and enjoy this race.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Detroit here, the doctor is in, and welcome back to our F1 2021 full season playthrough. Today, you will notice that I am actually doing this post-com style, like we did at Baku, because, as you can tell, the game audio picked up, but it didn't pick up my microphone audio, unfortunately. So here we are doing it post-com style. So as you saw in the starting lineup, we start in the first position, also known as pole position, and you can see that we had two different strategies. One of them being the one that has worked for us a lot, being that we would take the hard tires and we would pretty much run away from everybody with that type of strategy. But if I remember correctly, I think we ended up taking just the default strategy to see what would happen, or I think we actually ended up taking the alternate strategy. And we're here at the new Jeddah circuit, so we decided to take the strategy that we know works for us. And this is definitely brand new, not only for F1, but also for me, because I've actually never driven this place before. So here we go onto the formation lap, and you'll see as I roll off here.
Okay, go through all the gears if you can. We need to make sure the engagement is okay before the start. We're going to want to put some temperature into the tyres and brakes. We need to keep the engine cool though, so don't go too high with the revs.
Thank you. And that was very important, because in practice, when I was practicing the car and everything like that, oh my goodness, the engine temperature got up to about 230 degrees Fahrenheit, which that is extremely hot. Anybody that deals in Celsius can try to make the connections or the calculations and figure out how hot that was. But you can see how beautiful this track is. In fact, I couldn't really see how beautiful it was, because, you know, when you're behind the
Conditions look stable at the moment. No rain currently expected.
When you're behind the cockpit, you can't really see anything because you're focusing your attention on the task at hand. And also, this is our second to last race with the Alpine car, and this little Alpine has been so amazing over the last couple of races. Or actually over the season, practically. So anyway, as we get started for this race, you'll see that my teammate starts 5th because of a bunch of grid penalties that a lot of people took, and also when we get to Abu Dhabi, you'll see that even more drivers took a grid penalty as well. So right now we're just making our way down the back straightaway, And if you notice, I'm actually kind of taking everybody at a very slow pace. This gives me an opportunity to kind of like see, you know, just kind of how the track looks and just kind of how it all works. And I love how it says Expo 2020 Dubai when this game was released, because the Expo in Dubai in 2020 didn't happen due to the pandemic. So here we go, we're coming up into this last area. But I will tell you, this is the first street course that is somewhat tight that I've been on, but also wasn't as tight as some of you might think. But at least it's going to be a fun race. 25 laps will make up the running, and you're going to see that it kind of goes by relatively fast. So here we are as we start to line up on the grid. I will tell you that Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas have something up their sleeve, but this place I think is going to hurt them because of the fact that they don't have, you know, they really just don't have the pace for a very tight track. Anyway, everybody gets lined up right here, and we just wait in the lights.
The rest of the grid is forming up. Be patient and watch for the lights.
Here we go. It takes a while for the grid to come up, but here we go. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights! And it's go, go, go! Did you really think when I was going to do the post-comms that I was going to actually not do that? I mean, that has become a tradition, as I almost cut off Lewis Hamilton. I ran wide right here. And you saw right there that we did use a bit of overtake, because I knew that Lewis Hamilton was going to be very stout on the start. And you can see that he's just right there in second place with Valtteri Bottas in third, Sergio Perez fourth, and our teammate Fernando Alonso in fifth. You can see that we're slowly starting to pull away because, as you guys know, the Alpine is a very technical car, so it loves these types of tracks. It loves this type of straightaway, as well it also loves this corner. But as you can see, Lewis Hamilton was trying to close the gap on me. You can see it's a 25-lap race as well. This part right here is actually one of the more trickier parts of the racetrack, which you'll see right here. I actually was able to hang on to that, but during practice, I couldn't even get through there to save my soul. In fact, in practice, I think we were something like 8th quickest, and Lewis Hamilton was the fastest in that. But in qualifying, we did very, very well. Excuse me. Through the corners we must go. And as you can see, we still have about a 0.3 of a second lead here, but you can see that Lewis Hamilton is just breathing down my neck. Because he really wants to lead lap 1. And then right here is where he kind of went to the high side. I don't know where he was trying to go. I'm surprised he didn't try to flick it down to the bottom. But then right here is where I decided to unleash the afterburners to try and get away from him as quick as possible. You may have noticed in the track description earlier that this is actually a 3 DRS zone track. And you can even see them on the actual map itself down there on the left-hand side of the screen. So as we continue to lead the way here, you'll see that we now have a 1 second lead ahead of Lewis Hamilton because of the fact that those Mercedes just have top speed but just can't do anything. But you will notice too that my front downforce is currently at a 7. That's about where I want it to be, and I also brought up the numbers over here because take a look at the temperature right there. 1800 degrees on the brakes, and then the engine temperature was about as high as 224 right now, and watch this thing climb as we continue to go through here. And the other reason too why I even brought these stats up was because I wanted you guys to see how hot the car actually gets while you're racing out here at Jeddah. To make our way through the corners again, you can start to see that I start to get a little bit more comfy out here, which is very important. But you can also see too that the field is still relatively tight together. And you can also see too that we were definitely very quick, because before we started this, I put the other engine in it. I put the last fresh engine that we had into the whole thing. And as you can see,
That was the fastest lap of the race. Keep this up.
And as you can see, we got the fastest lap of the race again, because we were just slowly pulling away by this junction. as we make our way through these couple of corners. This Sector 1 has always been a very hard one for me. And right here I was having so much problems. In fact, when I did a test season a couple of months before I started filming this series, I felt like Jeddah was going to be an absolute disaster. But no, it turned out I actually didn't mind Jeddah so much. Yeah, I kind of messed up a little bit right there, and that allowed for Lewis Hamilton to catch up to me. But, you know, everywhere that I mess up, the Mercedes can actually pounce on me. But everywhere that the Mercedes messes up, I can pounce on it. So anyway, the DRS is now enabled, but Lewis Hamilton is kind of not in a good spot right now to really try anything with the DRS. But when we come around to here, this is, I think, where the DRS activates for him, and this is going to get really hairy. So he's getting super close. Look at that. It goes to 3 tenths, and down to a few tenths, and then he tries to go to the outside, but he takes it way too high, and just couldn't do it. Now here we come, back to the front straightaway. I didn't get much of a good launch here, because, again, you know, Lewis Hamilton's going to get the DRS. Now he goes to the high side. Also, his teammate, Valtteri Bottas, is coming right up on behind me, but Hamilton backed out of the gas, as he should have, and gave me some space. You also will see, too, that 5th place keeps changing hands between Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly, which Gasly's going to end up getting my F1 ride once we get into F1 23. And you can see that our best lap was a 1:34.4 so far, but we were able to kind of bring that down a little bit, I think. But anyway, you can see how long, or actually how fast it took to literally, you know, get to this point, because we'll be coming up on some pit stops here in the next few laps. So we made a good purple section here in Sector 1. Sector 2 was where I was always having the most problems. And you might notice too that because of the fact that we had slightly lower downforce, it actually was not bad for us, because there was a lot more sweeping turns than there were, you know, smaller turns. But as you can see, we went green in Sector 2. I don't think we ever really went purple in Sector 2 for any of the practices or even qualifying, to be perfectly honest here. Everybody else was purple in those except for us. But anyway, we now have a half a second lead ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas just, you know, sitting right there. Pierre Gasly now moved, or sorry, Sergio Perez moved up to 4th and Pierre Gasly 5th. Those AlphaTauris are really coming into play, and they're really starting to make a late season charge. And as you can see, we kind of messed up there on the 3rd sector, and I'm not fully sure why we did. I want to say maybe I took one of the corners a little too deep or something. I don't know. Transitioning now to a little bit further down into lap 5, because this is an amazing battle that happens here. Now, if you notice, I did bump the wall right there, and it's definitely a little bit weird, but I did not get any damage. And as you can see here, all of a sudden in the MFD, they wanted us to pit a little early, but I decided to just kind of stay nearby. But watch this, as I'm swiping this, here comes Lewis Hamilton to the outside. Hamilton tried the outside again, coming down here into the final turn. He gives me a huge bump, and I end up hitting him. So we muscle him out of the way. And that allows for his teammate Valtteri Bottas to get up right next to him. I mean, right here, Lewis Hamilton was extremely aggressive, and now all of a sudden, I am the meat in a Mercedes sandwich. Hamilton gets up ahead, but he has to hit the brakes hard, and then Bottas about hits the wall. So now these two are now having some argy-bargy. In fact, for the next few laps, these two actually will trade back and forth. But yeah, that was a little bit of a scary moment there. Moving ahead now to when we are about to take the final turn here on lap 9, as the pick window has now opened for us. And as you know, we were going to take the hards. And you can see that we built up a good lead on Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. And also good to see Pierre Gasly still up there along with Sergio Perez. So anyway, we go past pit road.
We're leading our teammate by 14.3 seconds.
And as you can see, none of the front runners came to pit road as of yet. But I did get a little bit squirrely right there. In fact, I almost lost control of the car. In fact, for the majority of this race, the rear end was kind of, you know, wanting to kick out many times, which is kind of strange. But as we continue down the track, the reason, too, why Hamilton and Bottas got such that big deficit on me is the fact of the matter is the fact that they kind of were arguing over who should be first, who should be second, or whatever.
No need to worry about tyre condition for now. Everything's looking good.
How ironic he says that when right now I'm struggling on the softs. It may not look like it on here, but in the wheel, ooh, you could absolutely feel it. Also, you'll watch as we get further into the race that it gets a little bit hazy here at the track, and I really like how F1 2021's graphics really helped out here. So anyway, right here I decide to make sure that they don't replace the wing, because sometimes I notice that the game just wants to replace the wing all willy-nilly, but we didn't really get any damage or anything. I do know that I believe this is the lap that we come into pit road. So as we make our way down, we now make our way to pit road, which is extremely tight right here. Look at this. And of course, thank God that we didn't get any issues, but that gives the lead back over to Hamilton and Bottas. But now just watch this. So here we go. Off come the softs, and on go the hards, and we are back out.
Go now.
You can see that our teammate Alonso came in, so we kind of double stack a little bit, which I didn't really want that to happen.
Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound.
So anyway, we get back out on the track, and now we are running with Sebastian Vettel here in the Aston Martin. Vettel took a long time to come to pit road, and so more of the, I wouldn't say back markers, but some of the back drivers were starting to come in, but put us to the 5th position. And pretty much from here, we don't have to make another pit stop, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm going to keep this uncut for right now, but I want you guys to kind of see how we actually retain the race lead, because right now, the top 3 are like plus 14 seconds ahead of us. But remember, we have the fresher tires. And for anybody that's new, that's probably thinking, why did you take the hard tires, man? Why couldn't you just gone mediums? Well, here's the thing. Back at Hungary, back at some other tracks, we took the hard tires, and it really seemed to help us, because everybody else would be on the mediums, and, well, the hards would actually gain grip faster than the mediums, or, I mean, not gain grip, they would actually wear out faster than the hards. So the mediums would wear out faster than the hards, which means that we would still have, you know, quite a bit of grip on these tires. Anyway, we come to pit road. Actually, we come out of the final turn. Lewis Hamilton is now on pit road, and so is Pierre Gasly. Now it's a race to see what's going to happen here. And obviously I'm able to pass Gasly, and I was able to bypass Lewis Hamilton. And let's see if there was any time gain or time loss as I come out of the corner. And you can see that Hamilton did gain a little bit of time, and he also took one of the medium tires, it looks like. So now we're back out on track, and we are taking care to basically we're basically seeing how much further back we are than Valtteri Bottas. You can see that it's a 16.5 second deficit. But as you can see right now, Vettel still has yet to come to pit road. And you can also see, too, that Sergio Perez has taken the medium tires as well. I find it amazing how a lot of these cars, as we are currently on lap 12 and Bottas comes to pit road, how many of these teams decide to just take the normal strategy. Now, I don't know why there was so much, you know, crowd reaction, because I don't think there was anybody that wrecked. But now, with Valtteri Bottas on pit road, as you can see, it's going to be a drag race, but I think we're going to end up getting him easily right here. But we come back out onto the track. Here comes Valtteri Bottas back to off of pit road, and he has leapfrogged his teammate Lewis Hamilton, which is pretty impressive. Vettel comes to pit road, and we'll say bye-bye to him, as there goes Pierre Gasly back to 5th. So it kind of went back to the way that the race was going for the most part. But now at this point, this was mostly about trying to get as much ground as I could, because right now, this is when everybody's the fastest, is when they're here on the medium tires, and you're out there on the hards, which still need to get up to temperature a little bit. But the good news here is that we're going to be able to increase the gap. And if you notice too, that we're not going to be lapping any cars anytime soon. So it's definitely going to be a while before we start lapping cars. I mean, I can definitely see where, you know, one of the Haas cars was, such as Nikita Mazepin and then Mick Schumacher, which, you know, I really thought that they would do better in this series, but apparently they just were not so good. Like, I figured that the Haas team could move up, but unfortunately they did not. Transitioning now to lap 18 of 25, as we now have a 5.5 second lead ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. As we start to make our way, oops, I bumped the wall just a little bit there, but don't worry, I think what happened was that I just got a little bit too close to the wall. And the rest of this race will be presented without any cuts, as we're in lap 18 of 25. But starting at this point, pretty much I was running away from everybody, because just like what we did at not Abu Dhabi, at Magyar Nagadic and some of the other places, the hard tires were really starting to come into play. And also, I didn't even have to use too much of my overtake at all. In fact, our overtake unit, see how much it was draining down there? It was draining quite a lot, because one of our units was really starting to, you know, wear itself down. But anyway, as we make our way into the last couple of laps here, lap 19 of 25, I started to see that I can start to see that I'm going to be lapping at least a couple cars, but I'm not going to be lapping too many people here, because everybody got very spread out by this point, and you can see that half the cars are still going through the final corner deck back there. But anyway, we went purple again on this first sector. It seemed like every lap we were getting faster and faster and faster, which was really impressive. I wish I had brought up the stats on the engine again, just to kind of see where it was after, you know, a long time of racing, but thankfully, though, we did do some heat upgrades earlier in the year. We make our way down through Sector 2. You can hear the crowd reacting again. Still nothing really happened. I mean, nobody crashed, nobody did anything. And once again, we were green in Sector 2. And now here we go into corner number 3. As we make our way into the, or not corner number 3, Sector 3, into the final turn, which is the DHL turn. Now, coming down the line here, look at this. Look at the power that we're showcasing down here, and once again, it was another red sector. But we now have a 6.1 second lead ahead of Valtteri Bottas. And as you can see right up ahead of us, there is the GOAT himself, Nikita Mazepin.
We're leading our teammate by 33.2 seconds.
And now, at this point, I was getting a little bit concerned. I was getting a little bit concerned about what was going to happen here, because there's not too many good places to, like, do a runoff on. And as you can see, I kind of got into the dirty air a little bit, and getting up here behind Mazepin, which, you know, Mazepin was able to let me go by. I will say rather reluctantly, but, you know, what are you going to do? So, thankfully, Mazepin let us go by. And now we're just with 6 laps to go at this point. And right up ahead of me is actually his teammates, which you can't really see him right now, but if you take a look at the track map, you will see that he's way up ahead, but we're slowly closing the gap on him. But you also see too that Bottas, Hamilton, they haven't really done anything. They haven't really caught up to us. But I want you guys to take a quick look at their overall intervals. As you can see that Lewis Hamilton was closing the gap a little bit, especially in the next lap on Valtteri Bottas. And these two would probably go back and forth. They would argue over who should get second place. Anyway, down the straightaway we go. We use a little bit of our DRS to once again make sure that we, keep up the pace. We did have a little bit of an issue because towards the end of this race, this is when the car got really tight. This is where I felt like it got extremely tight on me, and I'm not fully sure why it was, but I want to say it's because the black tires were starting to wear out, but they weren't wearing out as bad
There's 5 laps of fuel remaining.
as the mediums were. And of course, I always pause right here to allow for our crew chief to be talking to us. As you can see, we now have a 7.5 second lead ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and that lead continued to grow. I'm not fully sure what happened to Hamilton, but my guess is that he and Bottas were having some sort of argy-bargy or something like that. Remember what I said earlier about the haze? Take a look at the sky. See how the lights have a little bit of a haze to them? And also how the car reflects off the lights extremely well? It's very beautiful. I really love how this game does a great job with the illumination of this. And you might notice too that there's actually lights on top of almost all of the catch fences. Not like in NASCAR or IndyCar, where in NASCAR they just use the lights that are around the track if there is any. And then IndyCar has never done a street course at night. That would be something cool to watch. Anyway, coming around here to the line, look at that. We now have taken it down to a 1:33.449, which is very, very good. And you can see that we now have a 9-second lead ahead of the Mercedes. And as I'm slowly closing the door on Mick Schumacher, as well as also a Nicholas Latifi, you'll see right there. Did you see that? Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are basically going back and forth. They know that they want to get to second. I mean, they know that they don't do anything in the championship. I mean, they already know that they lost the championship, except for the other stuff. But Bottas and Hamilton are fighting for that other top spot, and you see that Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly are also having a little bit of an argy-bargy because it went to Verstappen, then to Gasly, then back to Gasly again, then back to Verstappen. I mean, it was kind of fun to watch those, especially while I was going through some of these turns. So now we're starting to catch up to Mick Schumacher up here, and hopefully, and as you can see right there, I almost got a little bit loose, but hopefully once we get to Mick Schumacher, he'll make it easy for us to pass him. I don't think we have enough to catch Nicholas Latifi. I forget exactly what happened here, but you can see Schumacher up there. We're definitely closing the gap. And so right here, he's going to be shown the blue flags. But if you notice, we didn't really get much of a good launch off of the corner. So now we got to go here in the turn 1 and 2. Take it nice and easy through that corner. And now we have to be careful, and we hit Mick Schumacher, which I don't know why that he decided to just park the bus down there, because that's right in the racing lane. So yeah, I'm sure the stewards had a little talk with him. I wouldn't know because I wasn't there. But if you notice too, it did kind of mess up our line quite a bit, which was then going to cause a huge problem for sure. Making our way through the last couple of corners here. There's Nicholas Latifi. So once again, we're now catching up to the back of him. Seems like we've been lapping him every single time that we race in the series. But here we go, we're slowly trying to catch him, and this time around, he has pulled over to let us go by. Thank you very much. And now we bump the wall a little bit again, which, you know what, if this was the real F1 stuff, we would more than likely damage the car once the wheel hit the wall. But, as you can see, those medium tires are really falling off big time, because now we got a 12.5 second lead ahead of these guys. We come down to just 2 laps of racing to go. In fact, at this point, I kind of considered myself almost like an expert here at Saudi Arabia. We actually are going to go to this track again when we get into F1 2023, but I don't think this track is going to be at the end of the season. I'll have to take a look at the calendar again. And I know it'll come after Australia, but we really need to get better at Australia. Now, once again, Verstappen goes to 5th. Valtteri Bottas stays ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And then Hamilton gets ahead of Bottas. It's quite interesting to see the battles and everything, and Pierre Gasly is just kind of in 4th place all to himself. Can't really do much with that, Red Bull. But when we get to F1 23, I bet you we're going to hear more of his name, but we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, at this point, it's just way too far ahead to even get to the next car, which looks like it was going to be one of the Alfa Romeos, so that either would have been Giovinazzi, or probably would have been Kimi Räikkönen. Which is sad, too, because this will be the last, because the next race will be the last time that we see Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Räikkönen in the same car, because Valtteri Bottas and Jean Guavard, I think, will be in the other car. I think I may have screwed up that name. Of course, Jean has the 24, but that's okay. We're making a name for ourselves with this number 46. So now, here we come out of the final corner. We're going to be taking the white flag lap presented by Ally Bank.
This is your final lap of the race.
And I gotta tell you, this has been a really fun race, and this was a fun one to, work with, especially since I was very concerned about Saudi Arabia. That's why I was thinking that the engine would be okay. Or at least, the fresh engine could be used here. But obviously this place wasn't so much a high-speed track, it was more of like one where you gotta be really careful. Meanwhile, Bottas and Hamilton are still arguing over who should be where. We make our way through that beautiful curve. We make our way down into Sector 2, which I think all of this race, I didn't really hit Sector 2 very well. I mean, I'm not not that much of a precision driver when it comes to F1, unlike others, but hey, at least I'm able to do something good with this race, and do something good with this, with this car. Anyway, making it through here and getting through that beautiful pagoda that kind of looks like a bunch of like white cheese sandwiches, almost like that. Doesn't it look like a plate of sandwiches to you? Anyway, coming through the final straightaway here and then into the final turn, I'll tell you one thing, this season has been like a dream season at Alpine. Hopefully we can bring that to Ferrari. Coming to the checkered flag, we will win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Win number 17. Win number 17 is ours.
Great drive. We did it. Good job.
Boy, I almost thought that I was going to hit the wall there. And the driver of the day goes to Max Verstappen. I think for his incredible run from starting 11th and going into P5.
Not just victory today then, but the championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had. Congratulations to the whole team. And talk to me. What do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Yeah, it's kind of a team sport unless you're Lewis Hamilton, and then it just kind of goes, haywire.
Here come today's winning drivers, and what
Enjoy that while you can, folks, because I'll be trading in that Alpine blue for some Ferrari red. And obviously you can see that Bottas was able to get the higher hand on Lewis Hamilton, which I find that really cool. I'm glad that happened. I'm sure Lewis was actually seething after that, but hey, Lewis, sometimes you gotta let your Sometimes you gotta let your, teammates, do the work. Anywho. So there's the top 14, and you can see that everybody went all over the place, and everybody was on the one-stop strategy, of course. But anyway, that's going to do it for this race. I'm going to see you guys at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where we do the very final F1 race in F1 2021. But if you guys want to see more of these F1 races, make sure you hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, everybody, take care.
I can't wait to see what's next.